A frail-looking young man with pale skin and dark circles under his eyes was sitting on a rusty bench across from the police station. He was cradling a cup of coffee in his hands, not the cheap synthetic type slum rats like him had access to, but the real deal. This cup of plant-based coffee had cost most of his savings. But on this particular day, Sonny decided to pamper himself. After all, his life was coming to an end. He crossed the street and entered the police station. Inside, a tired-looking officer gave him a quick glance and frowned with obvious distaste. "Are you lost, boy?" Sonny looked around with curiosity, noting reinforced armor plates on the walls and poorly hidden turret nests in the ceiling. The officer, too, looked scruffy and mean. "Hey! I'm talking to you." Sonny cleared his throat. No. As demanded by the third special directive, I am here to surrender myself as a carrier of the nightmare spell. The officer's expression instantly changed from irritated to wary. He looked the young man over once again and asked, "When did you start showing symptoms?" Sonny shrugged. "A week ago?" The officer became visibly paler. "Shit." Then, with a hurried motion, he pressed a button on his terminal and bellowed, "Attention! Code black in the lobby. I repeat. Code black." The nightmare spell first appeared in the world a few decades ago. Back then, the planet was just starting to recover from devastating natural disasters and resource wars. At first, the emergence of a new disease that caused millions of people to complain about constant fatigue and sleepiness did not attract a lot of attention. But when they started to fall into an unnatural slumber, with no sign of waking up even days later, governments finally panicked. When the infected started dying in their sleep, their dead bodies turning into monsters, no one was ready. In the end, it was the awakened, those who survived the first trials of the spell and came back alive, who put a stop to its rampage. Armed with miraculous abilities earned in their nightmares, they restored peace and created a semblance of a new order. None of it had anything to do with him, not until a few days ago, that is, when he first started having trouble with staying awake. For an average person, being chosen by the spell was as much of a risk as an opportunity. Kids learn survival skills and guiding techniques in school, on the odd chance of being infected. Well-to-do families hired private tutors to train their children in all sorts of martial arts. Those from the awakened clans even had access to powerful legacies, wielding inherited memories and echoes in their first visit to the dream realm. A few minutes later, Sonny was yawning while several policemen were busy fastening him into a bulky chair. A gray-haired policeman walked in. He had a seasoned face and stern eyes. After checking the restraints, the policeman glanced quickly on his wristwatch and then turned to Sonny. "What's your name, kid?" Sonny blinked a few times, trying to concentrate, then shifted uncomfortably. "Sunless. Listen carefully. Once you fall asleep, you will be transported inside your first nightmare. Nightmares are trials created by the spell. Once inside, you will meet monsters. You might have to kill them, kid." The old policeman waited for a second, then nodded and continued. "The situation you're in, the tools you have at your disposal and the creatures you have to defeat should be within the range of your abilities, at least. Don't give up on yourself just yet." Sonny was getting more and more sleepy. It was becoming hard to follow the conversation. "About those magic powers, you will indeed receive them if you survive until the end of the nightmare. Those powers depends on your natural entity as well what you do during the trial." The voice of the old policeman sounded more and more distant. Sonny's eyelids were so heavy that he was struggling to keep his eyes open. "Remember, the first thing you must do once inside the nightmare is to check your attributes and your aspect. Combat aspects are the most common, so the probability of receiving one is high." The armored room was growing dimmer. "If you survive, you will be halfway to becoming an awakened. But if you die, you'll open a gate for a nightmare creature to appear in the real world. So, please don't die, Sunless." What with that last thought, Sonny finally slipped into a deep slumber. Everything became black. And then, in the darkness, a faintly familiar voice rang. "Aspirant. Welcome to the nightmare spell. Prepare for your first trial."